because man's task is to make the earth after the model of heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Man's project is to heavenize the earth. Man is made to transform the world from glory to glory, to take hold of it and break it down and remake it after the image of heaven.
Welcome back to the Reformed Reset. My name is Grant, and I do not have the weaker vessel, Erica, my wife, here with me, and that is because I have the privilege again of doing an awesome interview. And tonight we are privileged to have Marcus Pittman along for the ride. Marcus, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super stoked and excited for this conversation. Guys, if you could please right now subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and in podcast world, subscribe and leave a review and comment and do all those things to help us out and hopefully help us get before new listeners. Check out all the links in the description. There's the typical stuff for us in our merch store, but I'll put links pertaining to what Marcus does for work, so that you guys can have quick access to all the things that we're about to talk about. So please go do all that. Really appreciate it. But let's kick off the conversation. So Marcus, we've been able to actually meet a couple times and spread out amongst years. The first time, it was really funny because when I messaged you asking if you would be interested in coming on the podcast, my old Facebook messages with you popped up. And 2016, 17, maybe it was when I had a chance to go to Phoenix for a day, and you were still living in Arizona and working with Apologia and stuff. And I had free time. I was on an army trip, but I had free time, and I was like, I want to go visit Apologia Studios. I wonder if I could just swing by. And you obliged, and it opened the doors for me to come visit. But I was getting iced coffee on the way. And I remember I was like, I need to ask if he wants iced coffee. And I got you an iced coffee. I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, this was years ago, but anyway, I saw that back in the messages and I was like, this is fun to finally get to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, man, that was 2016. So that was what, 6 years ago.
Yeah. Wild. It's been and it was cool because at that time, I think I was dipping into post-millennialism and theonomy, and I was listening to Apologia quite a bit, and you guys just presented it really well and in a way that I hadn't heard it before. And chatting with you was a good time. And then Jeff came to the studio a little bit after we had already been hanging out, and then I talked to him about it for another 30-45 minutes. He was so kind to just chat. He didn't know me from anybody. And I'm pretty sure that at least sealed the deal. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm there. I'm going to keep studying, but that was really cool. So
yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, that's where, I started. I obviously did Babies Are Murdered Here. And then from that got connected with Jeff, and then went to Apologia Studios, and we started that together and built that up. And, and now that long way around, that brings me to what I'm doing now with Loor, and I'm the CEO of Loor, and we're building that streaming platform to defeat Hollywood.
Yeah, what an awesome,
or at least
goal.
put a major dent in them. But we're gonna try and go all the way.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? It must be at least somewhat encouraging when you see Netflix lose so many subscribers. Their first quarter was awful, and you're like, come on over to Loor.
Disney Plus too.
Yes. Yep. And Christians are fed up. I mean, I think I've had Netflix a few times. We've always got it, cancel it, and just, but just in the last month or two, I finally got onto Loor the beta phase of Loor. Someone sent me an invite, so I got on there. And then you discover there's all this, you got to send invites, and there's loot, and you're trying to get projects funded, and you're doing this whole thing, and I'm like, this is fun. Why didn't I do this earlier? And then I just canceled Netflix again. I was like, forget it. I don't need this nonsense. I just want to fund this Loor. And
that was a lot of people have called Loor fun, and that wasn't what we expected, but I'm really glad that they see it that way, because we did intend, we're like, we want this to be a video game.
Oh yeah.
And it is, but I'll for your audience who haven't heard of it, I'll describe basically how it works. But
Cool.
when you have Netflix or Disney Plus and you're paying them, let's say just random number, $10 a month, a percentage of your monthly subscription goes to elite liberal Marxist Hollywood executives who take that cut of that monthly subscription, and then they make shows, movies, TV shows, documentaries, or whatever that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
And maybe every now and then they'll get something that you like, but for the most part, it's not something that you want to see. And what we decided to do is like, well, what if that whole process that's hidden from the consumer who are buying it, which is the green lighting of projects and the funding of films and TV shows, what if that's put in front before the subscriber, and then they can sort of help build their streaming service from scratch, which is sort of what we're doing. And so that created this whole like, well, let's have an internal currency, a video game currency, fake currency. Let's have this sort of, mode in which people can sort of spend their monthly subscription funding movies and TV shows that they want to see. And that's what's become the video game, right? Because I kind of describe it like, I don't know if you've ever played World of Warcraft.
I have friends that did, but
yeah. So if you ever played like a massive multiplayer online RPG, usually you'll get a group of people together and they'll all come together in an alliance to attack like this giant boss.
Right.
And then the XP will just dip down, and when it gets to 0, everybody gets to share in the treasure of defeating that boss. Well, that's sort of how Loor works on an episode, where everybody comes together, and the instead of the XP going down, the funding bar goes up to 100%, and then when it reaches 100%, the whole platform and whole community, instead of getting just silly treasure, you actually get an episode of TV or a movie to watch.
Right.
And so that's sort of how it works. It's really cool way in which it works, which, when we started this 2 years ago, we didn't even know if people would get it. But it seems the opposite is true. Not only do people get it, they're already begging us to be able to pay for it. So we're working on trying to figure out payment systems and all that sort of stuff now that we got the core functionality working. So
that's awesome. I hope it continues to exceed your expectations and surprise you, because I'm not gonna lie, full cards on the table, when you first started talking about Loor and your ambitious vision of taking on Hollywood, it's like, sounds good, man. Christians have tried it. It's but I don't know. It's a big thing to take on. Hulu, Netflix, these other things have already got people's pocketbook. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to provide the product that's going to get people to cancel and pick up your streaming platform. Turns out though, you got plenty of help from Netflix and Disney, being completely woke and LGBTQ plus crazy, and it's like they're kind of, they're ruining their own platform all by themselves, and people are just happy to cancel and pick up something else, it seems.
Yeah, they are. There's not a lot of options for conservatives, but also too, about 98% of people keep their monthly subscriptions and never unsubscribe. So when we look at like all these massive numbers of people leaving Disney or leaving Netflix or whatever, that's only about 2% of all streamers combined. So it's not, that's a lot. 2% is a lot, because you're talking about hundreds of millions of people,
right?
Or maybe nearly a billion people together, right? So 2% sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. So I think there's a lot more room in the market for streaming to happen, especially because people are cutting cable and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't think people like I'm not really too worried about people canceling Netflix and getting Loor, or canceling Disney and getting Loor, unless their budget
Okay.
requires it.
Mhm.
But I think we're going to create a platform in which people are going to have us anyway. And
Nice.
our platform's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
So it's a
Yeah,
lot of
totally.
fun to watch, a TV, usually the way it works, like for example, Netflix, they drop all their episodes at once, which is how, binging got started. And then, Disney Plus has started to go back to a weekly schedule for Disney Plus. Like, man, you have to wait a week or whatever. But with us, we don't know when the next episode is going to be dropped,
Right.
because the next episode is dependent on the users funding it. It might never come.
Yeah.
If people are just like, this
Oh,
show
man.
sucks, I'm not ever going to fund this, it might never come. But that's just how the platform works, and that's sort of the excitement. And some part of the fun too is that 97% to 100% waiting for an episode to fund at the last 3%, and everyone's, our running gag has been like, which is going to fund first, like which is going to finish first,
Right.
the popcorn in the microwave or the episode, right? So because there's those moments where it's like, oh, it's going to fund in any minute. And so there's that. And then there's also we're going to have a lot, probably more than we have, right now. We're demoing, Teach All Nations and Dark Holler.
So good.
And those series for the most part are done. Some of the episodes are still being edited, and those will come out in a few weeks when they're funded. But for the most part, a lot of our shows are going to start production once they reach the funding goal. So you might not see those shows 6 months to a year later, right?
Oh, wow.
So the very existence of the platform requires a long-term vision in order to really be successful. And so it's something only Christians can build. And it's also fun, when people say, well, there's not a lot of content on the platform yet, what do I do the rest of the week? And we go spend time with your family or something, man. Like,
have a life. I don't
what's
know.
wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So
that's great.
But over time, there will be more and more content options, and
right. The library will build.
As shows are funded, they exist for everybody. And we like to say it's sort of a multi-generational, in the sense that the subscribers that come after you won't have to put in all the work to fund the episodes that you did, but it'll exist for them, just like inheritance for your children, right? Like your children shouldn't have to work as hard to make a living or to do what they want to do because of the work that you put in for them. Right. Sort of like I always say it's sort of like how Jay-Z's daughter already got like an Emmy nomination, or won an Emmy, a Grammy, right? It's like she's 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
She didn't have to put in all the work that Jay-Z and Beyonce did. But because of the inheritance to their children, they got it easier. So there's like this really cool inheritance model that new subscribers get as the platform grows. And these are all things we've kind of really discovered over the beta, in terms of just how it's working and how people are responding and reacting to it. So it's really exciting to see.
It's really cool.
And we've done it with very little money.
That's great.
Even better. So
it works well too. I know. There's you log in a somewhat of an interesting way, but I like the humor even in the website language here and there as you're logging in. You get a magic link. Like, it's good, and it works well. The platform works fine. I've never had any issues. So far. I imagine that down the road there's either apps or better ways to get it on your Roku or something like that.
Right now it'll be casted. There's a lot of issues with doing like a Roku app. I mean, mainly because their programming language, in terms of what they allow you to do on a Roku television, is really kind of limited. So like our funding infrastructure and all that sort of stuff that we've designed on the back end isn't available through Roku.
Gotcha.
And so basically what you would have with Roku is just a viewing app, which defeats the whole purpose of our platform.
That's true. There's right.
So, and also too, if there is any money that's spent on Roku, let's say fund artists or whatever, Roku takes 30% cut of that.
What?
And so that's money that goes away from the artist, which I don't like. So we just, right now, everything is done through casting.
That's how I watch Dark Holler. Yep.
Yeah. And what I say is, it keeps the old church ladies away. Which is what we want at this stage, is we want to keep people who are going to influence the content in a more PureFlix way out. So if the technology is hard, it keeps the younger people active on the platform.
The barrier to entry is, higher. They're not gonna.
That's right.
So the other thing people get concerned about, and I think, man, there's so much tied up into quality of content. And I know there's a discussion to be made with, podcast. Does the audio matter? Does it not, or whatever? But when it comes to really producing a movie, producing something, you expect a certain quality. If it's a documentary, if it's whatever. And Christians, the Christian world throughout the last 30, 40 years have put out just some really crappy stuff. And whether that's the acting that's done in it or just the production in general. So another concern, or something that popped into my head first hearing about Loor, was going to be quality, right? Is it going to be cheesy? Is it going to be something I don't even want to share with my friends? Knowing you were behind it, I was like, well, Babies Are Murdered Here was great. The quality was great. The directing, the editing, production, it was done super well. I was like, if Marcus is behind it, it can't be bad. And then I finally got in and watched the first, episode of Dark Holler and even Teach All Nations. And I know you may not be behind actually you may not be the one actually filming these ones, but they're fantastic. And I know you're in the mix of what to produce and what to put on Loor. It's fantastic quality. Dark Holler, it looks just like any other super high quality studio made documentary about true crime, basically is what it seems like to me. And so I know there's tons of people that love true crime. True crime is so hot right now, but it's done so well, and it's such an interesting story. And it's really awesome. Nathan Anderson's Teach All Nations is really great as well. Again, the quality of the interviews, and it's just awesome. You just don't get any of that cheap feel that you get with some of the old Christian stuff.
Yeah, and those are just the documentary series. We have 4 or 5 animated cartoons that are coming out. We have movies, zombie movies. We have I think maybe a Western we just signed a contract for.
Nice. That's great.
And so we have at least 25 contracts that we've signed for films and TV shows that will roll out. As today we just announced American Recon, which is a reality TV show about essentially a border militia group in Arizona that stops drugs and human trafficking coming across the border.
Really?
And so it's not, and I think National Geographic has a border patrol show on, on Disney Plus or whatever. That's real safe. Border look how great our border patrol is. But no, this is a documentary reality show that is about really a militia group that is just private citizens protecting the land in which their families live on, right? So really, it's really crazy. I don't want to give anything away about that, but that some of the footage that they have is really incredible. And it's not a Christian, that's not a Christian show. It's a reality TV show about a militia group trying to stop drugs from
Right.
crossing the border, right? So it's not religious in that
Mhm.
sense, or it's not Hallmark or anything like that, or
Right.
PureFlix at all. And because of that, they couldn't find anybody that would pick it up, right? So you have this
Huh.
problem where PureFlix doesn't want it, and because it's not Christian, and then you
Uh-huh.
have, the left doesn't want it, right? And then even, it's a little bit too crazy for, the neocon conservatives, Daily Wire or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's perfect for us. That's
That's
usually
awesome.
our good judge of character is like, tell us who said no first.
Nice.
Right? Before we say yes, tell us who said no. And then that's usually how we determine if a project is good. And these are professionals, man. The guys that's producing and directing this stuff, like they're top of right? They've been doing this for a
That's
long
great.
time. They've worked on several TV shows you've heard about, and
Mhm.
so it's a big deal to get that project, and we'll be funding for that soon. But yeah, so there's that cartoons.
That's really cool to be able to get
We
into
just
that.
announced. We haven't announced who's doing it.
Mhm.
Um, People have figured it out, but I still won't say it. But one
Yeah, I
of
could probably
the
make a good guess.
you probably could, but he's an animator for a lot of cartoons you've heard of. Johnny
Mhm.
Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, first season of Ren and Stimpy.
Mm.
Or a few seasons of Ren and Stimpy. I'm not sure how many, but I know for sure the first season, which is said to be one of the best animated
Oh wow.
anythings of all time, is first season of Ren and Stimpy. He was part of that, and then he's doing like a sort of like it's called barely, not no, it's called Busted Bible Stories.
Oh.
And so Busted Bible Stories is really good. It's going to be a great show. I mean, these are like people that are top of the game.
Hmm.
Not like, these are not, you know, independent filmmakers, although we have
Right.
those too.
Mhm.
But that's what we're creating at Loor, is we're just creating an art house for film that's never existed in Christianity. There's
Right.
never been I guess you could say an Adult Swim for Christianity, or an
Gotcha.
MTV of Christianity, right? Like, where
Mhm.
just artists can just make whatever they want and just break all the rules and not be bound to the normal standards that PureFlix has really established on the Christian film industry. That's
Hmm.
not realistic
Yeah.
at all, and no real filmmaker wants to do.
So, with that American Recon show, you made a comment like, this isn't a Christian show,
Mhm.
but this is a Christian owned and operated company. Is Loor, I guess I didn't look closely, but is it advertised as this is a Christian streaming platform? And whether that answer is yes or no, because I don't think it necessarily has to be in order to be Christian. But how much does your Christian worldview or your theology kind of inform or shape even why you wanted to do this, or what you decide to put on the platform?
Well, yeah. So I think primarily when you look at like someone like PureFlix, they started making content. Well, they started making movies, and then they realized that Christian movies were only going to be in a theater maybe like 2 or 3 weeks at most.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to sell DVDs to really make a profit. And so they realized that the best place that the best place that they can make DVDs is uh, like in Lifeway Christian bookstores, family Christian bookstores,
Right.
those sort of things. So they just started making movies for the Christian bookstores target shopper, and the target shopper of Christian bookstores is 35-year-old soccer moms, right? That's who shops at Christian bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe pastors, right? And so you started really just they started to naturally just create this sort of Hallmark movie, sort of Lifetime original
Yeah.
feel for their movies, for Christian movies. That's PureFlix's brand, right? So that works great when you're trying to sell DVDs in a Christian bookstore, but those bookstores are both bankrupt now, right? Like, they shut down all
Yeah.
the Lifeway stores, they shut down the family Christian stores. They're gone. People don't buy DVDs and Blu-rays as much as they used to anymore. And now everything is streaming on demand, or online rentals or whatever, right? In that sense. So the men are the ones that usually make those decisions, right? The men are the ones that go, all right, honey, we're watching this movie tonight, or come on, kids, we're watching this movie tonight, right? So that's a complete shift in the consumer, than what it was, and the market hasn't responded to that. So theologically, you asked for, I'll get to theologically in a minute, but the market doesn't make sense to make those cheesy Christian genre is really what it is. Not it's not really a Christian movie, it's just a genre that's a Christian genre that was part of focus groups and marketing and planning and executives determining what a Christian movie was. Now, theologically, I believe that all genres belong to God. God tells the best stories, and he doesn't confine himself to one genre. Like if you look at the scripture, there's outright horror films in scripture, right? there's violence, extreme violence. There's adult content, romance in scripture. And when I say adult content, I'm not talking about nudity. Although that is sexual sin and immorality are definitely implied in scripture too. So there's a lot of freedom we have as artists to really tell the stories that we want. Exodus 35 is a great example for the artist on sort of the freedom that they have to make good art when they're building the temple. And Francis Schaeffer does a great breakdown of that. I don't want to get into that. I could do it go an hour going through Exodus 35. But if you read Schaeffer's books on art, Francis Schaeffer's books on art, he goes to Exodus 35 and the construction of the temple.
Awesome.
Sort of the freedom that artists have, really within the constraints of the regulative principle. It's really great, really phenomenal breakdown of that he pulls from Exodus 35. But so we have the freedom to really make what we want, to use our imagination, and to take our imagination and turn it into actual things. And God gave us the world that we live in, and much like God took earth and made man, he tells man to toil the earth and grow things right from the ground and whatnot. So that's sort of what we can do as artists. And yeah, so one of the movies we have is Follow the Dead. It's a zombie horror comedy, Irish zombie horror comedy.
That's wonderful.
And it's about the dangers of really fake news and being on your phone and social all the time. Not a Christian movie, but it's a movie made by Christians, and it's really good, and it's winning every single film festival that it goes to right now.
Really?
Right? So and these are all, like, PureFlix would never take a zombie movie.
Yeah, right.
they would never do it. Like, you wouldn't even get in the door. And now also too, something important to point out is that Sony is PureFlix is owned by Sony now, which isn't even a Christian company, right? And
good.
So they're taking the profits from the Christian movies, and they're reinvesting them into their homosexual documentaries, right?
Gee, yeah, exactly.
So we're trying to just create a venue where artists are free to just really make what they want within the constraints of being a Christian, and the amount of freedom that they have at Loor is more than they would have anywhere else. And I'll say that to a pagan too. If a pagan comes to Loor and follows our rules, they'll have more freedom to make whatever they want than any other platform.
That's fantastic.
So, but that's how the law works, right? That's how the law of God works. The law gives you freedom when your body rages against God's law,
right?
And then you wind up, restraining yourselves to 60,000 congressional laws or whatever, and then that's not even including tax laws and
Well, and
That was-
even yeah, it's so true. It's yeah, that's maddening. But even the left is censoring themselves from the past. And
yeah,
like on Disney Plus, whenever I'm choosing, you're totally right. The dad chooses the stuff, right? Um, so I'm like, okay, kids, let's, I'll find something for you to watch. And I automatically go to the old movies. I don't want you, I can't trust, new stuff. I've watched the old stuff as a kid, so at least I kind of know what I'm dealing with. But all these old movies have this big disclaimer, right?
yeah.
The views in this were not, culturally sensitive, or they were blah 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 blah. I'm like,
Mhm.
then why is it? Well, first of all, you're just censoring yourself from the past, which is kind of a weird, weird flex. But also, you keep it on here. Why? Like, if it's so awful, but you want to get money from it, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, you're right. The pagan just continues to restrict themselves more and more because they don't have
Right,
the
and now
freedom.
now they have diversity and LGBT standards that they have to have
Right.
in every movie.
Yep.
That's a requirement, not from the government, it's just self-imposed, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a majority of storytellers don't want those requirements in there.
Right.
They don't want to deal with that, and I think that's really where we're going to succeed in terms of showing people how Christians really have the freedom to tell the best stories.
That's
You have to
right.
follow our rules, but you'll be better for it.
Yeah. Very good. I like the aspect of taking dominion of all. Well, you just said take dominion of all genres, but
Mhm.
doing, but bigger pictures, just taking dominion of this thing of streaming platforms.
Right.
Christians ought to be thinking like that, where it doesn't mean if I have a Christian company that's trying to redeem or take dominion in a certain area, it means that a gospel presentation has to be, shoved in there somewhere just so that I can now call it Christian.
Mhm.
No, just do it in a way that honors God's creation, that honors his moral law. And there you go. You're being a Christian, doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Right. I think that's what Schaefer said. Like when he's like, what is the purpose of blue pomegranates? Like they don't like they were in the temple, or they were on the priest
Right.
clothes, or wherever they were, right? He's like, but like they don't exist in nature. They right, so it's like it's just art for the sake of art,
This
right?
beauty for the
uh,
sake of, yeah.
yeah, it's beauty for the sake of beauty, and that's the sort of stuff that was in the temple. And
Yeah.
when God told the artist to decorate the walls with jewels, he didn't tell the artist how exactly to put each jewel. He just said do it,
Right.
and trusted the artist, you know creativity to be able to do that. And so there's a lot of really cool things like that in those passages in Exodus that really show the freedom, to really be able to do that stuff. And go back to the Garden of Eden too, you can sort of see the freedom there as well,
Mm-hmm.
in which um, the the jewels that washed up
Hmm.
into the Garden of Eden are the same jewels that were required for building the temple in Exodus, and it's the same jewels that sit around the throne in
Hmm.
heaven in Revelation.
Yeah.
And so, and I believe, I think this is true. I think this is right. They come from the same jewels that the wise men brought
Ah.
Jesus, right? So there's something about God dwelling in beauty,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically precious minerals and these sort of works of art
Right. Right.
is what he references. And so when we're to go and you know turn the world back into the Garden of Eden,
Right.
part of that is art and beautifying the world, right? So there's a lot to that. That's a lot more than the pure flex genre.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's
So
very good. That's cool. And I hope what you just said encourages people to not abandon the arts. Christians, I don't know. it is residual in some circles, I guess, to sort of retreat from maybe those areas of our culture when they need to be redeemed rather than retreated from. And that doesn't mean we get involved in it and do it by their rules, right? We come with different presuppositions, and that's how a Christian should be approaching movies, music, literature, art, like actual painting art, and all that kind of stuff. So that's good. And even creating videos, like we got this podcast channel and we're trying to do it well and do it in a way that honors God and all that kind of stuff, right? Decent and orderly. So so good stuff. So guys, if you haven't been on Loor yet, go get a part of the beta phase right now. Start getting involved on the website and unlocking these projects. The two that they have were right now, Dark Holler and Teach All Nations, are fantastic. They're edifying, they're documentary style. I love it. I can't wait for the next episode to drop because I've watched everything so far. But it's very, very good. And man, for all those Christian recons out there, this is Gary North's last video interview, it said.
That's right. Yeah. One of the rare ones that he actually had, he didn't
do that too often, right?
No, because when I was at Apologia, I tried to get him to come on our show. We actually we even offered to fly him out.
Oh wow.
We'll fly you out, teach some classes, and I don't think he really realized the reach of Apologia. Because it was, we're a YouTube channel, and I don't think he understood that I don't think he ever got that as a legitimate
gotcha
thing.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because Nathan, I don't know what Nathan did, but Nathan got him to sit down for a video interview, and it was his last one. Yeah. So, and I hear at the end of season 2, it's a tearjerker about Gary North. So,
it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can only get it on Loor. So,
get Loor.
It's really a tremendous blessing to be able to have that. We're gonna plan that. So,
it's really cool. Well, so let's segue by also talking about one project that Loor will be putting out, and then that may segue us into something that just hit the news feed right now as we're recording, which is May 2nd in the evening. Marcus, what do you have to say? I don't want to give it away. I want you to say.
I'm just checking to see if it's still true.
I know, right?
So apparently, as we're recording this, there was a leak that said Roe v. Wade. Politico is reporting that Supreme Court's voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, according to a leak with Alito writing the dissent, or writing the, I don't know, whatever you call it. So apparently that was leaked, and I'm actually just listening to reading what Doug Wilson just wrote, actually, because that's interesting, because that goes with something one of the desk courts he just said. Maybe he doesn't post on Facebook his tweets. Let's see.
Sometimes, yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, this is awkward dead time.
Yeah, no. So I guess
it's new. It's just happening.
Yeah, right now we're going through feeds. But this is massive though in a lot of different ways. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, the Politico headline said they voted to overturn.
Yeah, it's 5-3 according to them.
Wow, that's actually
so. Doug says if Roe has been struck down, then glory to God. But sit tight. The unprecedented leak means that we might be watching the outside rings of some unprecedented palace intrigues. Which is interesting. He said that because I read something from a desk court who I follow on Twitter because she hated Apologia, and she said, She's tweeted a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, she was referencing some like this has happened before when it was leaked so that the opinion could be changed.
Right.
Like because people knew and like they were kind of getting a sense of
Where the public was at.
where the public was at. So and that's a pro-choicer, a hardcore pro-choicer telling everybody to calm down, that this could be part of the plan. It's like, yikes.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of laws in a lot of states that pro-life organizations have passed that make abortion legal.
Yeah.
So for example, you're not allowed to do an abortion after 6 weeks, right? Heartbeat bill. Well, that means that the pro-lifers wrote a law that says you can do an abortion up to 6 weeks. So now we have to go back to all the states and overturn all the pro-life laws.
Right,
So
they have to
that's
do a
going to
new
be the
one.
next long process. And some states have put a trigger that says if Roe v. Wade is overturned, then none of these laws are on the books anymore. So that'll be interesting to see which one of those actually trigger.
Right.
So, but I know, like, Arizona has a really awful pro-life person named Kathy Herod who is just awful lobbyist in the nastiest sense of the word of lobbyist.
Jeez.
And she's tried to fight against some of the laws that Apologia has done as a means that Apologia doesn't get to take credit. And then by doing that, she's actually made abortion easier, I guess. Like she's taken away punishments from women and who get abortions, all this sort of stuff. It's really nasty situation, but that's going to be the next fight. But anyway, and how this goes to Loor is Loor Clausen is doing an animated series of shorts, much like on Disney Plus. They have animated shorts or whatever done by different artists or whatever. These are an animated series of shorts done by secret Disney and DreamWorks animators on the subject of abortion.
Wow.
And Kevin Sorbo does the narration for the first one.
Awesome.
And probably, I think I saw the animatic, which is basically the rough sketches of it, and it was probably one of the most powerful pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. I think I thought about it for like 2 days after seeing it. And so that's just the pilot. And she's doing 5 of them, I think. And she's going to cover birth control and IVF and, so it'll be really interesting to sort of see what happens, Another question is like, what does Roe v. Wade being overturned do for like Plan B and abortifacients and birth control? Like, that's going to be a whole nother fight that a lot of pro-life organizations don't have the guts to ban, right? You never see a pro-life group saying we're going to make sure Walmart can't sell Plan B or Walgreens can't sell Plan B. Like you don't ever see it. So it'll be interesting to see now how empowered they feel. But I'm hopeful. I'll tell you this. I am curious. I think I was talking to Jeff about this actually right before we got on. Is I am curious the revolution that might happen, because everything's really tense politically in our country now.
Yep.
And this is a top-down approach, right? This is from the cathedral saying no more abortion, and people's hearts aren't ready for that. So
very true.
And not only are people's hearts not ready for that,
look at
Biden's
Twitter, it's
administration
ugly.
isn't ready for that, right? So there might be a retaliation, maybe violently, towards conservatives as a response to this. So it'll be very, very interesting to see. But who would have thought that Donald Trump would have done
I know. But you know what? God spoke through an ass one time. So
I'm telling you,
it's
man.
just, yeah.
Sometimes in my feeds, I'll get stuff, memories from the time when like Trump, that I said when Trump was running for president, before people thought he even had a chance. And I was like, man, I was wrong about that one. Unbelievable. There's no way I could have predicted it, but it is interesting. It is fascinating to see. I think I'd be praying for Apologia, because I think they're in Abortion Now specifically is having a big rally in Louisiana, I think in a few days, Wednesday, I think, and to pass a law that ends abortion in Louisiana.
That's great.
And so the timing is perfect.
Yep.
Right. So
they might want to get a
I
little
think
more
they'll have
security.
they'll have a lot of support to actually codify it.
Right.
And hopefully that'll happen faster than they were thinking it would. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see the first state that says we're done. So
yep. Because that was
from the
thing.
pill to the mill. That's what I say. Shut it all down from the pill to the mill.
Nice.
So
yeah, because you always heard from certain states like, well, we would if it wasn't this Roe v. Wade thing, because we know, and it has happened where states have passed right. This came because of a bill in Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. Hobbs, is it Hobbs versus Casey or something like that? I could be wrong, but that was why this overturned, because they realized finally somehow it's unconstitutional. But many places were like, well, we can't pass anything because, well, now they get to prove what they were, if they're really going to stick to their guns. Like, are they going to put their money where their mouth is? Like, okay, well, now you have nothing impeding you. Now you have nothing in the way of outlawing abortion in your state, or better, just criminalizing it is what needs to happen.
Yeah, it'll be so interesting. I think the fight, I think the fight will be for, because you're still going to have that incrementalism abolitionist fight, not because of strategy per se, but corruption. I think that's always my argument for the most part. We can get into that's a whole different thing, but the corrupted grifters in the pro-life movement are still there now.
Yeah, what are they gonna do?
Even with Roe v. Wade, like they're still there. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Well, maybe we should just end abortion, but not the pill, right? Like let's not go all the way crazy when we overturn the, So it'll be like, not like, let's not make punishments for women who, get back alley abortions, So there's going to be all these weird. It's going to be weird. It's going to be, you're right. You're really going to start to see where people's allegiances truly are.
Right.
So that'll be fun. It'll be fun to expose. And
yeah. And some states are going to still be a battleground, probably the more liberal states, right? They have no intentions of outlawing. And so Christians now more than ever have motivation to go fight. Where I'm at, go ahead.
I want to see the state that not only outlaws it, but sends in the National Guard to vacate the Planned Parenthood bill.
There we go. My son, my son goes, I would just love it if the Planned Parenthood was, went out of business, and then we could just blow up their building. And then my wife goes, no, we should plant a church in their building.
Church.
I was like, there we go. That's
good.
post-mill.
Teach him right. Yeah. So, I think it'll be interesting. It'll be so interesting to see what'll happen. I think we should take all the Planned Parenthood clinics. This is my idea. Okay. Take all the Planned Parenthood clinics and turn them into Samaritan Ministries hospitals, which are church run, no Medicare, no Medicaid, none of that stuff. I say Samaritan's Ministries just in that sense of that kind of Christian health share sort of
Yeah.
you know, charity based, the way
Yeah.
hospitals used to be run.
Yeah. The way the church used to be the leader in
Yeah,
that.
when they were called like First Presbyterian Hospital and,
Right.
in New York. And it's like, where did they
Uh-huh.
get that name from?
Exactly. Yeah. What church runs that hospital now? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Mary, even the Mary Immaculate hospitals and
Yeah. St.
all
Joseph's
those things.
everywhere. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like Ron Paul said. Like I worked at a Catholic hospital, and back in my day, if you couldn't afford the bills, you came in anyway, because the nuns would take care of you, right? So
Nice. So here in Maine, I actually serve on the board of a kind of like a crisis pregnancy center here. And here in Maine, our governor is liberal. Janet Mills is her name. And they were telling me at our last meeting that she actually has said that she would be I don't know if she said she wanted to or she's open to or whatever, but making Maine a sanctuary state for women who want to get abortions.
ooh,
It's real bad.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And so there, because we pray every time for Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and just for this injustice to stop in our land. And so we have conversations, but that's the thing. And Maine's interesting because there's really only a few places. It's not like everywhere you turn there's a Planned Parenthood. I think there's only one in the whole state. It's not a big state. We're 1.5 million people.
Right.
And then, but government funds pay for them. And so now, though, with Roe v. Wade, if this indeed is what we're seeing overturned, seems like it is. Liberals are freaking out. They're losing their minds on Twitter.
That's what it looks like.
It's and the liberal confusion is maybe why they're losing too. But at least it has to be part of it. This guy, I'm not going to say his name or give him any credit, but the GOP hates women and is sentencing an entire generation to death. Are you serious? Do you not know what abortion is?
I know. You could do a whole show just reading Twitter right now, honestly.
Yeah, Roe v. Wade is trending. It's like number 3, or I don't know. It's trending right now. So, number 1.
I just tweeted, "Shut them down from the pill to the mill."
Beautiful.
That's going crazy. So, yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited. So, from your perspective, murder is a federal crime, I believe. Hold on, what'd you see?
A friend of mine just tweeted, "Who do you think Biden's going to nominate for the 10th and 11th Supreme Court seats?" That's probably going to happen now for sure.
Right.
But go ahead. What were you saying?
So I know a lot of people, when it comes to like the abortion thing, with outlawing it, they go to the state level. And that's a very like American way of thinking about it. But even if all the states, and maybe I don't want to get into lower magistrate discussion, but there might be those out there who think we do need a federal law outlawing abortion because it's murder, and murder is, if I'm not mistaken, murder is a federal crime. Or I guess, what are your thoughts on abortion being outlawed at the federal level rather than the state level?
No, I don't think it has to be outlawed at the federal level. I don't think. Are there any? Because like, no, I don't think so. I think the Constitution provides, it's rules for the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything else is supposed to be back to the states. So I think, in the way that the framers of the Constitution originally intended,
Mm-hmm.
any sort of local matter is done locally. So anything that happens locally is done locally for the most part.
Okay.
So I don't Yeah, I don't think we need a federal law against murder because it's not the federal government's job to do that. I guess that's what I would say.
So I just
So
Googled what crimes are federal offenses. Half of these should have tax evasion, counterfeiting. But it's, a long, it tells you what the state thinks of themselves, right? When you see
yeah,
some of
right.
these
Yeah.
crimes. But there's uh kidnapping is a federal offense.
But that's across
Um,
state lines, though, right?
maybe. Yeah. Um, the federal crime category includes ransom taking and the taking of hostages. Federal
Oh, okay.
crime, yeah. But like
So it doesn't
it's
make sense.
no, it's probably just them getting involved where they don't need to be again,
It's
right?
yeah, it's just a way for the FBI to raid people who have too many guns.
Yeah, that's right. And break the what is
Or
that,
the
the Fourth
ATF, right?
Amendment?
That just
Yeah.
sounds like an ATF law. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. That's
So
a unlawful search and seizure of its own citizens. Um yeah, so anyway, I just yeah, I'm really excited. It makes me hopeful. When Biden's vaccine mandate for any company 100 people and up or whatever, he did that executive order, and then I think it was several circuit judges or whoever shot it down. This is not constitutional, and then it went away.
mhm.
And that was a huge victory. Now we have this. It kind of seems like they're losing. They're not happy about it, but it makes me happy if it like there's kind of a big
I don't
thing.
think they were ever winning.
Sure.
I think they were just louder,
Yeah,
and
that's a
they
good point.
took over more of the cultural institutions.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's worked for them. I think, or they went too fast. I think they went too fast.
Mm-hmm.
They thought, I think they sort of created their own bubble, and in that bubble, they figured now everybody believes this, and it's only a few people on the right that don't, or crazy people on the right that don't. And I don't think they really had any awareness as that really how many people uh, are not where they are. And I
Right.
think they acted too fast, and uh, there, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see. They've done this to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't, with all the movies, the Hollywood, the schools, all that sort of stuff. They've done a lot of damage, but I don't think they've done as much as they have hoped, and I think they've stepped over.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is it's going to be really interesting to see. Who knows? I don't know, but I would be very weary uh, of thinking, well, one, Biden's just going to let this happen. It's
Oh
not.
yeah. No, they're getting to
Um,
work now
and
already.
and if it does happen, there'll be some legal loophole that they will figure out a way to keep it. And we'll be fighting that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't see, uh, you know, I don't see, you know, DeSantis swarming Walmarts and confiscating all the Plan B pills, right? So,
True.
so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you never know. DeSantis has surprised me. So, but
That's true. But we have, yeah, it's cool to think of what next steps this means for those who truly do want to abolish abortion.
mhm.
Um, and it's stuff like that, right? Okay, it's good progress. Next step, right? Like you said, Plan B pills, those need to be gone, or whatever. Like there's always we got to go all the way. So
Right, that's right.
and I would encourage Christians seeing this to kind of what you were saying, like they went too fast. Like maybe they overplayed their hand. They thought they had 10,000 troops when they only had 1,000. Like they overthought it. We shouldn't do the same. We shouldn't overplay or jump the gun or something either, right? Just stick to what we've been doing and trusting the
Yeah,
work
it's
of
definitely not a victory yet. One, this is just a leak. It's not the
yeah.
actual court decision. Uh, and two, like my friend on Twitter said, there's probably 3 or 4 new Supreme Court openings that's going to open up in the next few weeks. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. So
golly, that's true, man. All right. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. But Marcus, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you would like to plug before we close up our
just go to
conversation?
loor.tv, and then put your email in. And then once we start growing and expanding the beta, we'll send out ways to join. And then and go ahead and right now, if you can find a friend that has a beta invite, go ahead and join. It's completely free. We don't even ask you for a credit card or anything, and you can watch Dark Holler and Teach All Nations. So
Do it, everybody. I may or may not have an invite or 2 left, so we'll see if I get a message from anyone.
you'll get more tomorrow. So
Oh, good. Yes.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Tuesday's loot day.
That's so awesome. It's so fun, you guys. You got to do Loor.tv. It's really awesome. So, all right, Marcus, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm encouraged by the work of Loor, because I think those who want to take hold of creation and really build the kingdom, I think can learn a lot from you and from the others you're working with at Loor, and taking that to heart and actually doing something with that theology. I think that's incredibly important. And so I really appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Again, subscribe and like and do all that, please. And until next time, take hold and reorder creation by first reforming your home. This has been the Reformed Reset.
But on the basis of grace and on the finished work of Jesus Christ, the project is back and forth, and the destiny of a new transformed world is assured.
I just put the sourdough in the oven too, so I've got like 40 minutes.